Hello, beautiful souls. It's me
Hello,
here.
hello, how are you,
Hello,
Linda?
Dr.
It's so
Tererai
good to be here.
Trent. Welcome to Spiritual G-Spot. This is probably the most excited I've ever been for an interview. I've been a journalist. I've had a show for 26 years. This moment is everything to me. And for those of you watching this, you're going to see why. I want to welcome my dearest love,
Oh,
Dr. Tererai Trent. Thank you for being here.
oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I am just excited. Yeah.
Yes, this is going to be an extraordinary conversation. I want everyone who doesn't know who you are to know who you are. So I'm going to read your official bio, and then they're going to fall madly in love with you the moment you open your mouth, just like I did. So those of you who are seeing this goddess woman, the awakened woman for the first time, let me rock your world. She is one of the world's most acclaimed voices for women's empowerment and quality education. She is the founder of the Tererai Trent International. She's an educator, motivational speaker, Oprah's favorite guest of all time, period. She's the author of the award-winning The Awakened Woman. You see it behind her. This book will change your life. Which is Remembering and Reigniting Our Sacred Dream. She serves as the president of The Awakened Woman, a company dedicated to empowering women with tools to thrive as they achieve their dreams. She continues to lead global change for the fight for quality education for all children and for women's rights. She's become a symbol of hope and living proof that anything is possible. And she recently, in August of 2019, was honored with a life-size statue for equality in New York. I could go on, I could gush, and I probably will throughout this interview, but I cannot wait for everyone that I know to meet the glory of you.
Oh, thank you.
So backstory, we crossed paths, we shared the stage at the International Women's Summit, which is March of 2019, which was phenomenal back in Phoenix, Arizona. And I confess that I didn't know who you were. So you took the stage, I think, the day before I did. So I was in the front, the speakers had a section, and I was like, who is this? I'm reading. So, before you went up, I'm Googling, and I'm like, how do I not know who this woman, because I love Oprah, how do I not know who this woman is? And then you took the stage. And you have to remember, there were many, many incredible speakers, Cheryl Strayed and Liz Gilbert and Glennon Doyle. And then this woman takes the stage, and she is, first of all, a vision. You were a vision that day.
Oh.
And then you started to speak. I don't think I was sitting on my chair. I think I was elevated, levitating above my chair, because what you spoke to me was the truth of all truths.
Oh.
And I will tell you, Tererai, and then I'm going to pass it to you. I have to say this. I have to say this, is that one of the changing moments in my life was when I read one line from a book from the amazing Dr. Christiane Northrup, who was also at that event. And the line read, and this is what changed my life. The line read, in our cells is the memory of our maternal ancestor, their dreams unrequited, their longing, their desires, and it floods through our body. And I remember reading that. I confess that I was on the toilet. I'm confessing. And it's a big, thick book. So I was sitting there, and I remember reading that. My whole body felt chills. And then you spoke, and the dot was connected. And I know you're going to tell the story. So I just want to say that when I saw you spoke to the deepest part of me and the lineage of my ancestors, and that's what you represent with your work. So thank you. Thank you.
You are so welcome. We are the dreams of our ancestors. Yes. We live the hopes of our ancestors.
We sure do.
Who we are today and who we want to be, it is the foundation from our ancestors to fulfill that legacy and to make sure that we pass on that hope and belief to the next generation as they did pass it on to us.
Preach, preach, Mama, preach. The opening intro of your book, The Awakened Woman, which I believe is required reading for not just for women, but for men and for women. You say, and I'm going to just quote, "I come from a long line of women forced into a life that they never defined for themselves." Take us back to Zimbabwe. Take us back to the beginning of your story, which sets the foundation so everybody can understand the power of your life and your legacy. Talk to us.
You know, by the time I was 18, I was a mother of 4 babies, and one of the kids died as an infant because I failed to produce enough milk. I was a child myself. I would always visualize my great-grandmother. When she was born into this race that I call the relay of hunger, and she's holding this baton, and I call that the baton of oppression, the baton of early marriage, and the baton of being in an abusive relationship. So that's where I'm coming from, a long line of generations of these women who carried these batons. So my great-grandmother, I'm seeing her, she's running. I don't know the woman, but I'm visualizing she's running with this baton of oppression, this baton of, self-doubt, the baton of illiteracy. And she runs with that baton and she hands it over to my grandmother. My grandmother grabs that baton and she hands that baton to my mother, and I would end up with that baton. And hence, here I am, married very young, babies, no education, but I had a dream. Because my grandmother would say, even though we are running with these batons of oppression and we are passing these batons, but there's also the passing of the wisdom, the passing of the dreams of what it could be if we can get rid of these oppressions. So I am the hope and the dream from my ancestors, what they have always wanted me to be. And so my dream was to have an education. And lo and behold, I started doing what we call correspondence back home, where there's no teacher in front of you because I was already an adult. So I had to correspond my high school education. And it took me 8 years to gain that thing they call a GED. And it was 8 years of never giving up, but also 8 years of failing, because I remember, through correspondence, we were still under the colonial system, the British system, our education, where I would write my paper or my exams and mail them to this place called Cambridge. And I would wait 6 months for the results to come, and they would always come in a brown envelope. And I would open that brown envelope. I would go to this rural post office, find that brown envelope, and I open and I see I have a U ungraded, an F failure. And because I didn't have much money with me, I was just an abused woman. My mother was a subsistence farmer, so she would grow vegetables and sell, and she would give me the money to go and rewrite the exams. And I would go back and receive that brown envelope. I'd open it again as though I didn't fail last time, and I would see you ungraded. And I would go to my mother and I said, "Mother, I failed again." And my mother said, "We don't give up. We don't give up. Here we are now independent. Let me sell some mangoes and some guavas." And she would sell and give it to me. Up until 8 years, I opened that brown envelope. I had A's and B's. So it speaks to the power of belief that if we want to change who we are and redefine the life that our ancestors have always wanted for us, we don't give up, because we are honoring that legacy. And also, I knew I had that responsibility never to hand that baton that had been passed on through generations along the line. And I needed to achieve those dreams. So I would end up writing my four dreams. I wanted to go to America.
Yeah.
I wanted to have an undergraduate, a master's, and a PhD. You know, I come from a culture where when a child is born, the female elders of the village, the wisdom whisperers, the grandmothers, the librarians of our memories, the keepers of who we are, they would surround that baby and snip off the umbilical cord and bury the umbilical cord deep down in the ground, with the belief that when this child grows, wherever this child goes, whatever happens in their life, this umbilical cord will always remind them of their birthplace. So my mother said, Tererai, I see you only have 4 dreams. But let me tell you, your dreams, they seem like your personal dreams. Your dreams will have greater meaning when they are tied to the betterment of your community. Write down your dreams and bury them the same way we bury the umbilical cord. Despite the abuse in your life, the beatings from your husband, your dreams will always remind you of their importance. So I ended up writing my number 5 dream. Remember, I had only 4, going to America, undergraduate, master's, PhD, and I wrote my number 5. When I'm done, I want to come back and improve the lives of women and girls in my community. And I had no idea what that meant, but I knew my mother was handing me an inheritance, so that it's not only about my personal goals, and it's not about our personal diplomas that we post on our walls in this life, but it is about how our personal goals are connected to the greater good. So I buried my dreams, and it would take me those 8 years to achieve my GED, or my high school diploma. And sure enough, I would find myself at Oklahoma State University. But before coming to America, I had these rituals that I would do to ground that faith, to ground that belief, that mental conviction that I am Tererai, and I carry the hope and dreams of my ancestors, and I have to change the baton.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so hold on. First of all, I'm doing everything I can not to get too emotional yet. I'm going to try to keep it together, because I remember you on the stage running with the baton, passing it from your great-grandmother to your grandmother to your mother to you. And I remember as you were doing that beautiful dance for us on the stage, I felt that reverberating through my body. And I had come to a point for myself a few years ago when I became very curious about my grandmothers and the life that they lived, and the life of their mothers. And when I started to do research and go back to my motherland and go back into to their stories, I became indignant. I became so clear and committed to living the fullest expression of my life, not so that I could be glorified, but to glorify them, and not so that I could feel like a mountain, but that I could be tall for the future generations. I understand. So there's so many things I want to unpack in here. First of all, you had 4 children. You were in an abusive marriage. You had a dream. and you had incredible women in your family who supported. And I think it's so important. I talk about support all the time. You need someone to hold that greater vision. But there's a few things I want to unpack. So first of all, it took a long time. Talk to me about resilience. I know there are people who are going to be watching this who have a vision or a dream for themselves or a desire, and they spend maybe months, maybe even years, and then the desire fizzles, the passion, they become hopeless. What kept you dedicated to honoring the dream?
I think the fear of baton, and I love Renee Brown when she talks about vulnerability, the power of vulnerability. It's a gift and it's a strength. And so for me, my vulnerability was that baton, the early marriage, the colonial system that was so oppressive for me, the illiteracy. And to think that if I don't confront these by going back to looking at generations before me, what they had gone through, and see this ugly baton and say, I want to confront it. So in many ways, I was building my own resilience, because I knew no matter the obstacles in my life, the abuse in my life, the prize on the wall, I could see it. I could see that I needed to change the narrative for myself and for the next generation. So I think it is in those moments of our brokenness, we begin to find the hunger to change the narrative. And I talk about the two kinds of hungers. There is the little hunger. It's all self-consuming. You give up easily. It's all self-doubting and self-judgment. You don't see your worthiness in this world. But when you really try to cultivate and listen to the yearning of your heart, you are tapping into the great hunger, which I call the greatest of all hungers in our life. The hunger for a meaningful life, the hunger never to pass on that ugly baton, the hunger to redefine. So sometimes it is the ugliness in our life that will propel us to do good or to change that ugliness into something good in our life.
Beautiful. I love the story of your mother. Tell us the story of your mother inviting you to take your dreams and to put them in a box and to bury them. The ritual of that. Talk to us a little bit about that and about the visual, what she said to do in that spot, to visualize your dreams. Tell everybody about that.
So you see, when I talked about the female elders burying the umbilical cord, the word bury and plant in my language is the same. So you are planting. So my mother said, you write down your dreams and you plant them deep down into the ground so you could see them grow and leave that legacy that our ancestors have always wanted for us. So I buried my dreams, planted my dreams. And my mother and my grandmother, they would always say, go to that place where you planted your dreams and visualize yourself as though you are living into those dreams. You are achieving those dreams. So I had nothing. I was a poor mother, abused. All I would do is I would go and sit at that place where I had buried my 5 dreams. And I would visualize myself getting into an aeroplane that would take me to this place called America. I had never seen an aeroplane in my life. The only aeroplane that I could think of were the war helicopters, because I grew up during the war, and there would be these helicopters that would come into the community, flying and threatening communities, and sometimes throwing bombs at innocent people because they were looking for what they were calling terrorists, and we were calling them the freedom fighters. And I would visualize myself getting into that aeroplane, finding a seat, and flying to this place called America. Visualize myself getting on campus, and I'm carrying books, heading towards the classroom. And every one of those 5 dreams, I would visualize them as though they have already been achieved. And I remember the day that I received that letter that said I had been admitted at Oklahoma State University. Oh my goodness. It was a celebration of crying, mourning. And then the day that I went to the airport to get into that aeroplane, finding a seat, and there was this deja vu. I've been here before, because I had spent many, many years visualizing that moment.
Unbelievable.
The power of creation is in our hands. The power of creation is in how we believe the so-called impossible to make them real. And so I had nothing. And even up today, all I have is the belief that this life can be better than what it is now.
Yes.
And then I work hard to achieve my dreams.
I love the ritual of the burial, the planting. And I love that you visualized it into being. I love, because this is, it's funny because I've been speaking for a long time, but there was a time when I remember watching some of the speakers at every opportunity I'd go to watch speakers so I could learn from them. And there was a moment I remember in Toronto. I was at a huge event, and some of my favorite speakers were on stage, and I went home, and a friend whispered to me, "I can see you on that stage." And I remember imagining walking out, and then when it starts to happen in a way that I could not have planned, I could not have dreamt that dream for myself in the way that it happened. And I love the part of your story when you finally come to America, and it's not magical and roses and fairies, and it's hard. It's hard. Talk to us, Tererai, about you coming. You spent 8 years getting your GED. You plant your dreams. You're sitting there visualizing. You finally get admitted. You finally come here, and it's hard.
It is. The road to success is full of thorns. It is full of thorns. It can't be all honey flowing. So
Nobody tells us this.
So when I arrived in the US, I was an adult, and I did not have any scholarship at all. I came with a dream that I'm going to make it. And then reality just boom, wow. And 3 months down the road, my kids had to come to America. We had just gained, 10 years after our independence. So Zimbabwe was like 8 years, nine years, yeah, because I came in 1999. No, it's not. No, it had been more than 10 years. But Zimbabwe was the last country to gain its independence. So you would understand that the global community wanted the success of our people so much, the empowerment of women so much. And, because for me, even when I had those dreams, I couldn't say those dreams because I grew up in a patriarchal society. Women are expected to produce babies and be housewives. But when we gained our independence, there was this woman, her name is Jolak, and she was from America. All of a sudden, these women, Americans, Canadians, Australians are coming into our communities. And this particular woman, Jolak, she asked me, what are your dreams and what are your hopes? And I'd never heard anybody ask me that question. And I was quiet because there were other women and they were talking about their dreams to educate their children. And I knew I'm not going there. I want to talk about my own education. And she looked at me and she said, young woman, you haven't said anything. What are your dreams? I hesitated a little bit because I could feel the other women looking at me. And then I said, I want to go to America. I want to have an education. There was silence. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done to myself? What did I do? And I'm thinking, oh, Tererai, I'm now doubting myself. And in that moment, I felt the other women were judging me and saying, how can you say that? You have an abusive husband, let alone talking of going to America. You have no high school education. How are you going to America? But this stranger, she never saw any of that. I don't know what she saw in me. And she just said, if you believe in your dreams, they are achievable. And she used the word tinogona, it is achievable. And that's why sometimes I think women, we need one another. We need a society that believes in us. We need our tribe that can look into our eyes and say, yes, you can achieve this. And I mean, that was the beginning of me putting words into my dreams. And so when I came to the US, it wasn't easy. When my kids arrived after 3 months, oh boy, all the savings that I had, because remember, during that 8 years, as I was doing correspondence, I was also working with, what they call community development. And Zimbabwe at that time, they were promoting women to do savings clubs. So I would work with NGOs who didn't look at, my qualifications, but they wanted to promote women. There were not that many women who had university degrees. So as long as you are able to interact with women, I would do these piecemeal jobs and save every penny out of it. And I remember, if you read in my book, The Awakened Woman, I talk about hiding my money from my husband because I was afraid he would take my money, and I would hide it, give it to my sister-in-law, my sisters. And so the day that I got admitted, I had to go to them and say, please, my money, and they would give it to me. And because at first I used to hide my money in a cornmeal bag, because men that time they don't go into the kitchen, they don't cook. So I would hide it there, but then I would think, oh my gosh, what about if he finds it? And so I would just panic up until I decided to hide it with my sisters. So when I came, I had pretty much $4,000. And part of it, my mother had sold some goats, and the community had helped to sell chickens to give me this money that now I have. And now here I am in America, and I have 4 kids. At first there were 4, and then the 51 came, and there were 5 mouths to feed. And I'm trying to pay my tuition and pay for my accommodation. We ended up living in a trailer house, which was so dilapidated that when it rained, I would find myself with the kids in one corner up until the rain goes out. And there was no air conditioner, there was nothing. It was just an empty shell. And one day my kids were brushing their teeth as they were preparing to go to school. And the gums were bleeding, and I realized they were missing fruits and vegetables. In Africa, you know, you can grow your vegetables. They grow because the ground is fertile. And I say to myself, it's one thing for me to pursue this dream, and it's another to see my children suffering. So I went to the university and I asked, I need help. And I think it's important to show our vulnerability in life and to ask for help. Otherwise, we might have pride at the expense of our life. And I encourage women, you know, vulnerability is a strength, because you know you just need help and you can see the light there. So ask for help. People are always eager to help you, because if you don't want to ask for help, if you don't want to receive, it means you can't give.
Yes.
It's a two-way system, giving and receiving. So I was asking because in my mind, I knew if I would have seen Tererai in that situation, I would have given her help. So anyway, so we ended up the vice president of international students. His name is Dr. Ron Beer, and he's still there. And he said, you know, we can find local stores, and some of them, they have some of our alumni who are managers. So we went to this one store, and the manager says, oh, you know, I'm so sorry, we can't give you the leftovers, because we were asking for fruits and vegetables left over, you know. And I said, I don't mind feeding the kids from the leftovers. You know, at the end of the day, the stores, sometimes they can't sell everything, or some fruits are becoming shriveled and what have you. And I wanted those. And the manager says no. And I'm crying, and I could see he was also teary and emotional. And he says, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to give you the fruits and vegetables, but I'm not going to hand over to you. I'm going to put them in a cardboard box and put them outside the trash can. Make sure that by 4 o'clock you come and pick your fruits and vegetables. But if you don't come at 4 o'clock, we are forced to dump the fruits into the trash can, because that's the time when we, you know, the garbage then comes to pick their trash can. So I used to work 3 jobs and taking care of 5 kids, and I would always be late to that trash can. 90%, if not 99%, I was late, and I would find the card box had been thrown into that trash can with some of the fruits and vegetables already spilled into the trash can, and I would grab everything and wash and feed the kids and ask myself, who am I to even complain that my kids are eating from the trash can, when I know there are thousands, if not millions, of kids out of sub-Saharan Africa who are street kids who are eating from dirty trash cans. Yeah. At least the American trash can, someone washes it. Oh. And I would also even ask myself, who am I even to complain that I live in a trailer house, a dilapidated trailer house with my kids, when there are so many women, even in America, in the Western world, who are homeless, seeking shelter, and they can't find the shelter. Who am I? And I think those thoughts helped me to come home to myself, to ground me, because I could see I was in a much better position than many women, and I could see light at the end of the tunnel. And so I ended up graduating with a degree in agriculture, and went on to do my master's in plant pathology, which is the same field as agriculture. Never gave up. It was tough. And I remember sometimes I had my older son, he would cry and say, Mama, this is too much. Let's go home. And I say, please, can you believe in this dream? Can you believe? And he's crying and I'm crying. And I am telling all my kids, can we believe in this dream? I was so vulnerable to my kids. Some might think, well, you are burdening your emotions to your kids. But you know what? Sometimes our kids, they need to understand where we are coming from. And I wanted my children to know where I am coming from and what we needed to achieve as a family. So we break down this vicious cycle of poverty, this vicious cycling of the baton, the ugly baton, and redefine a different baton that they can run with, and they can pass it on to my grandkids, pass it on to my great-grandkids. That's a beautiful legacy if we just believe in who we are and who we can be.
Oh, there's so much in there that I think I'm so emotional, because I'm thinking of all the people who are having a rough time. Mm-hmm. Certainly not as rough as that, perhaps, or maybe rougher, I don't know. But the people who are listening, who are in a place where they say, who am I to have this dream? Who am I to have this dream? And why don't I just stay small? Why don't I just give up? Why don't I just go back? Why don't I just relinquish the desire? And so much of what I talk about is, I'm so emotional, Tererai, because I believe that the desire is divine. It's divine. Yes. And what I know is that when I work with women, when there is a woman who is full, when there is a woman who is achieving, who is growing, who is expanding, who is happy, who is joyful, who prioritizes pleasure, the first thing she wants to do is share it. The first thing she wants to do is give it, is help, is to take from her overflow and to spread it. And so for all the women listening who are holding on to, clinging to, or in swimming in a pool of guilt around and shame around their desire or their dream, know that your desire is divine and the pursuit of it. And sometimes we look at our children or the people in our lives who are putting in an uncompromising position because of it. Understand that your dream is going to benefit all. When a woman is fully alive, fully turned on, fully realized, living in her fullest potential, everyone is blessed. Everyone is blessed. I want to ask you this. I want to go back to, you had your 5 dreams. So the first 4 dreams were all about you and what you wanted. And then your mother said, make sure that you have a dream that's connected to the greater good, connected to the community. And I want to talk a little bit about that, Tererai, because so much of my work is about coming back to yourself, prioritizing yourself and your joy and your pleasure. And sometimes it's misunderstood as just stopping there with a period at the end of the sentence. But what I know to be true for myself is that when I am full, when I'm living my fullest potential, when I am a better mother, a better lover, a better teacher, a better friend, a better daughter, a better giver. Because I'm full and I'm able to give so much. And you said, the giving and the receiving is just they're the ebb and flow. It's just like the ocean. So talk to us a little bit about a woman taking, like you, with your son, and he's crying, and your kids are having a hard time, and you could have thrown it all in. talk to us a little bit about that dance of understanding that sticking to that path is really for the greater good, because I think guilt is the number one dream stealer for so many women, guilt and shame.
So when we feel guilt and we feel shame, we are entertaining our soul wounding. Soul wounding is those ugly batons that may be passed on. Sometimes you observe your own mother or your own grandmother, they are always afraid. They self-judge themselves. And lo and behold, you become just like them. So that silencing from confronting that which is in front of you, which is imprisoning you, you pass it on to your children. So for me, I have to balance that by confronting and looking back and looking at the ugly wounds that I carry, and let my kids know that they are these soul wounds that are silencing me. And if I don't confront them, I will pass them to you. So I tell women, when you become silent about who you are, it could be your sexuality, it could be your way you want to dream, your way you want to be big in this world, and you are afraid and you want to remain small. Remember that smallness, you're passing it on to your babies. Yeah. Can you afford that? So I ask, what soul wounds are you carrying? And what soul wounds do you want to pass on to the next generation? So yes. I reclaim who yes. I am, reclaim my voice, and get my platform so that I pass on a better platform, a better voice to my babies and to the next generation.
You're singing to my soul. You're singing to my soul. I was on tour for most of 2019 and 2020 mm-hmm. up until Corona hit. And I have 2 teenagers at home that have been, my parents help out. And the number one question I get is, how do you manage with your children? Like, what do you do with your children? And the bolder I become, Tererai, with my voice and sharing my story about my sexual revolution, my daring to dream that big for myself, what you're speaking to really speaks to the heart of me, because I believe that every woman has an opportunity to be a model of possibility.
Oh, yeah.
We need to look at each other. Like I need to look at you. Someone needs to look at me, whether it's my children or everyone is looking at one another to be the model of possibility that plants that seed of possibility that says, she's doing something that speaks to my soul and gives me permission. So yeah. Talk to us a little bit about, because this is new territory in the past couple of years, new territory for me about the awakened sexual woman. I want to hear your take. I want you to share, because this is new for me. And this was something I never wanted to talk publicly about. And then I had a video, you don't know this, I had a video that went viral to 40 million. That's why I'm on tour. It's called The Too Much Woman.
I love watching your videos. I mean, you really speak to owning and realizing that our own bodies, they know. The knowing at that level, the divine within us. I always say that a woman who is not in tune with her sexuality can never sit in a boardroom and make creative decisions. Whoa. When we are in tune with our own sexuality, the erotic power that we have, and love who we are more likely to be creative, to love others because we have loved who we are.
Mm.
There is power in our erotic self.
Yes. I resisted that forever. And even when I started to taste it, Tererai, which is about 4 years ago, I had a little taste of it. There was so much shame and so much fear. And I think so many women, 1 in 3 are abused sexually that we know of. There's so much fear and shame around that, not understanding that the reclamation, reclaiming the sovereignty of our body is not about having sex. It's not about, it is about reclaiming our whole self.
Exactly. Reclaiming our whole body, spiritually, physically, and being confident and proud of this feminine energy that we exude. I think that's powerful for women. That's powerful because for women, including me, sex was a taboo subject. It was considered dirty. But we find who we are, the yearning of who we are, by tuning into our sexuality, by celebrating our erotic power as women. We are the creators and the divine is within us. We are the queens. So if we deny ourselves and just think that we are sex objects, then who are we to even think of achieving our own dreams, to even think of being creative, innovative, to even think of leading teams and sitting in that place where we can make decisions? Who are we? We have to start with what God gave us and appreciate and celebrate that. And many women, they find it very difficult. And I also want to say other women's success is not our competition, but it should be a source of our inspiration and opportunities.
It's an abundant world. There's more than enough.
I should see the goddess in you and celebrate that goddess in you.
Oh,
as you celebrate the goddess in me.
I do. I'm so emotional. Everything you say feels like it's my life's work. And when I say work, it's not, my message is my path. I speak my path. I don't have a master's degree in anything. I speak my path. And I want women, and it's scary sometimes, and it's hard to be in a place of visibility where it's not always acceptable, but I stand on the shoulders of every woman and her faith and her courage so that she could see possibility for herself. I want to talk, Tererai. I know I'm mindful of the time, but I have to tell the story because of the International Women's Summit, something that personal that happened. I hope it's okay. I've told the story so many times, but I have to say it with you. You know what I'm going to talk about. Because we go to the International Women's Summit, I'm watching you on the stage. This is related to what we were talking about. I'm watching you on the stage, and you have this impassioned, graceful presence. You are owning the stage. Like I said, I was levitating on my feet, and then I noticed that you're crying. I think you're crying, and there's tears streaming down. And I turned to the person beside me, and I said, "Oh my!" Like, as a speaker, I've never seen a speaker cry on. Like, I said, she is so in the moment. Right after that, we had our speaker lunch. I don't know if you remember this. We had our speaker lunch. I got my plate. Now I'm blown away that I'm sitting at a table with all of these extraordinary women. So I'm just happy to be sitting there. I'm sitting there. I'm hardly eating. I'm looking around the room. All of these amazing women are in this room. You come and you sit right beside me. And I just watched you speak, and I'm thinking, I can't even breathe. I am in awe. I'm just like bowing to the queen. And I turned to you and I smiled nervously, and I said something like, Dr. Tererai Trent, that was the most extraordinary speech I've ever seen. And I'm so in awe that you were so emotional. And you turned to me, you turned to me with one eyelash on and one eyelash off and told the story. Tell the story. Tell it from your side.
So when I got invited to speak in that platform, my vulnerability kicked in, and I'm thinking I'm going to share this platform with all these big women. I mean, talk of Elizabeth Gilbert.
Yeah.
I mean, Glennon. And I am thinking, oh my gosh, well, then my vulnerability says you better, just make sure that you have makeup, you have your eyelashes, you have everything so that you really look professional.
Jeans. Remember you put jeans
yes,
on?
and I had a skinny jean, and I've never done that in my life. Me, I'm just.
Yeah, I remember you pulling up your jeans on the.
Yes, and I go on stage and I'm speaking, and before I know it, so because in this skinny jean now.
I'm laughing because I didn't know the story when I was watching you speak. I just saw you crying and yanking up your pants until I heard it.
The skinny jean, because it's almost falling off, and I'm so afraid. And then as I'm yanking it and I'm speaking and I see people there doing the standing ovation, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And then for some reason, I rubbed my eye, and that eyelash just came out and just fell right there. And I am just so in fear, and I'm like, what have I done to myself? And there it is, and I'm speaking, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And so when I met you during lunch, the only one that had been left, it fell right on the plate.
It fell right into the plate. Oh my gosh. It was, I tell the story because.
You see, women.
Yes.
You see, women speakers, and I tell you this, it's not about what you are wearing, it's not about the eyelashes, but it is about the message. I've learned a lot from that, and I said, never will I do that. A skinny jean, I mean, for the
I can't wear skinny jeans, so I don't even, these hips are like, no. I know.
You look sharp.
Well, you did. But here's see, my version of that story is that I was looking at you thinking, who am I to sit at a lunch beside Christian Northrup, Liz Gilbert, Glennon Doyle, Dr. Tererai Trent, and then to hear you, I was so humbled to share the stage with you, to hear you share. See, this makes me emotional because to hear you share that you had a moment thinking, who am I, humanizes all of us. Humanizes all of us. And it just endeared you to me because it reminded me that we all are doing our best. We all have the fear. I remember even Liz Gilbert, I had a few moments to have a couple words with her, and even she said, how was I? Was that okay? And I just thought, we're all really asking, is that okay? Am I okay? So it was just such a beautiful.
Yeah, because we live in a society that we have to keep up the appearance. We have to show everything is good. And in reality, no, we have our own vulnerabilities. We have our own moments. It takes me back to the greeting that we do in Southern Africa. When strangers meet, they always say, Sawubona. The other person says, Sawubona. I see you. Then the other person responds, Ngikhona. I am here to be seen. Meaning I am here to be seen with my vulnerabilities, with my joy, with my pain. This is who I am. And so I always want people to know this is who I am, you know. This is Tererai with her joy, but she also comes with her vulnerabilities. She comes with her pain. She comes with her soul wounding. She's also healing from all those things.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
there
And it
is
never
no
ends. Please tell everyone, Tererai. Please tell everyone, because I'm asked this all the time, and I'm certainly not, I don't have statues in New York City. I'm not Oprah's favorite guest, but I get asked all the time. Please tell them that there's no arrival where you get to a place that's marked X and you're finished. You will always have growth. There will always be
we we
more.
are we are all eternal learners. We are learning. There is this
Yeah.
global classroom where we all belong. Otherwise, if we only confront ourselves as I have arrived, we are silencing other women. We are silencing others, because when others will feel, oh my gosh, can I be like that? Oh my goodness, let me just keep quiet. And that's what silences a lot of women, a lot of individuals, because there are those who are saying, I have arrived. This is me. I am a celebrity. But no, no, no,
Oh,
no. We are all learning. I mean, I learned so much from you. And, you know, I watch your videos and I'm like, wow, wow, what a talented and gifted woman. But you know what? You can as well tell me, you know, I work hard to be where I am right now.
every day,
And I am still
every day,
learning. Yeah,
every day,
yeah.
every
It
day.
it allows us to become the fertile ground where others can graze in, because the fertile ground, when you think about a farmer, when they plant, they always choose this ground where they know their crops are going to grow well. But it does not mean that that fertile ground is all good. Insects are coming in to hurt the ground. So we are fertile ground with our wounds, our soul wound, but we have the moral responsibility to create that fertile ground so that others can come in and learn and grow.
Oh, I'm so inspired by you.
Oh, you
My heart is
inspire
so
me.
so full. I am so blessed by your presence in my life. I'm so grateful. Forget meeting you. Just knowing that you exist is is
Oh,
a gift to my soul. And
oh,
I want to just thank you for your being, and thank you for persevering, and for those hard days, and for every time you doubted yourself, for persevering, because that inspires me and that keeps me going, which I pass the baton, a different baton, to
mm,
other women who pass it on to other women, and we create this continuous ripple of possibility, not just for women, because it's women who are raising, I'm pointing to my son, raising boys, raising daughters, we're
yes.
raising one another. And so everyone who dares to be courageous and resilient and dream a dream for themselves is helping everyone else. We're all so connected. Tererai, before you go, one last question, if I may, because I could talk to you forever. Um, what wish, what if if the world went silent and a microphone dropped in this moment? What message, what wish do you have for anyone listening? What is
Mm.
the thing that you want everyone to hear?
You know, the fact that I am because we are, since we are, therefore I am. I want everyone to know that we are here on earth for a purpose, but we also stand on each other's shoulders. For me to be who I am, I stand on the shoulders of champions, of giants, shoulders of those who carry their vulnerability, but without losing sight of who they are and who they can be. And that's the message that I want everyone to know and to believe in their Tinogona. it is achievable.
Beautiful. Tererai, I see you.
I am here to be seen with my soul wounds, my vulnerability, and with also my joy and my talents.
All of it. All of
Thank
it.
you.
I'm so grateful for you. I love you.
Love you too. Love you too.
Thank
I'll
you.
be watching your video. Oh my gosh.
Oh, until we meet again, either I will bring you to Toronto or we'll meet somewhere in the world. Until we meet heart to heart again, please, everyone, get The Awakened Woman. It is worth it. You will love it. Get an extra copy and get it for the woman in your life that you love, that is a model of possibility for you. Get The Awakened Woman. The foreword was written by Oprah Winfrey herself, and she's only ever done that one or two times. So it is so powerful. If you were moved today, please get your copy of The Awakened Woman. Gift yourself that continuous inspiration. Follow Tererai online. She's everywhere. And again, thank you, and I absolutely adore you. And I want to honor the women who came before you, who made this possible. So your mother, your grandmother, and all the women who made this possible for you, I want to honor them as well. Thank you so very much.
I honor yours as well. Thank you. Thank you.